It's Dr. Aaron Carroll joining me from his home office, and I appreciate you talking to me as always, pal. I
Sure.
want to talk exclusively with you about closing down the borders and why you think that's so important. You've been tweeting about it all day, and you seem to be really so. Basically, you're being critical and questioning why they have announced at this press conference and why reporters are asking so much about the border closing. It matters not.
Well, look, we've already closed down international travel. Fine. And at this point, closing the border arguably protects Mexico and Canada more than it does the United States. So fine. But if that is the focus today of our, trying to mitigate or, let alone suppress what's going on in the United States with respect to coronavirus or get a handle of the coming storm, that's ridiculous. It's already here. Like, we're not worried about like a couple more cases or something coming in from Mexico or Canada. It's already massively here in the community. So fine that they're closing the border, but the fact that like that seems to be all anyone wants to talk about is if that's how we're going to take care of this is baffling.
You wrote in the Atlantic a piece getting a tremendous amount of attention. It's titled, "This is How We Can Beat Coronavirus," along with, how do I say his name?
Ashish Jha.
Ashish Jha at Harvard. You guys co-wrote this piece. This morning, Scarborough tweeted it saying, the White House better read this. It's pretty big, pretty important.
Yes. Well, of course.
Of course. You described the difference between mitigation and suppression. What is it?
So suppression is like, I think even when we talked yesterday, it's the idea that we want every person who gets infected to infect fewer than one person. Because if not everyone who's infected infects someone else, then eventually the outbreak goes away. Like you get it gone. That's suppression. Mitigation is instead of each person infecting 3 people, we might try to have them infect 2 people or 1.5 people. It's the idea that we're going to slow down the rate of infection, not stop it, but slow it down enough that the wave doesn't overcome our capacity to treat it in the healthcare system. We're arguably engaging much more in mitigation right now than we are suppression. Because again, it's like we expect, if someone in my house gets infected, if someone in my house gets COVID, all 5 of us are in the house. It's very likely someone else is going to. So we're not stopping it. We're just trying to contain it and slow it down. So I might only infect my house, not everyone in the community. That's still mitigation.
We talked. I'm sorry.
You
repeated it from yesterday, but I had that stupid technical issue echo, so I wanted to repeat it. But what were you say? Especially what?
I mean, the fact that we can't even do widespread testing makes suppression almost impossible, because until we can actually start testing for people who are not symptomatic but are out there in the community getting other people sick, we can't stop this. So, real suppression requires us to be able to do widespread testing, even of people who aren't really sick. And we're nowhere close to that right now.
It seems like that's where we've dropped the ball the most with the testing issue, not having the tests, and even if we had the tests, not being able to distribute them in an efficient way. Is that fair to say?
It's the first time we dropped the ball, but we're still not picking them up. We're not making ventilators as fast as we should. We're running out of supplies. We're running out of masks and the ability to protect healthcare workers. We not only don't have the tests, we're running out of reagents, we're running out of swabs, the ability to actually do the testing. So there's a lot of balls that need to be picked up, a lot of things that need to happen. We detail them all in that Atlantic piece, which I'd encourage everyone to go read. But, we're going to spend the day talking about the border. That's what we're going to do. That's when I get frustrated.
That's because there's a real lack of leadership, certainly at the national level, with our idiot president who is attacking reporters today. This is the first time you saw one of those press conferences?
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know how people do this. Like, it was just so frustrating. I mean, so many times I just was trying not to scream. I don't think I've watched one of those before, clearly, because I'd remember it. No, it was baffling, maddening.
And your Atlanta piece, you guys write, some Americans are in denial and others are feeling despair. Both sentiments are understandable. We have a choice to make. We can look at the coming fire and let it burn. We can hunker down and hope to wait it out, or we can work together to get through it with as little damage as possible. And you're just kind of constantly tweeting in reference to that article and what you lay out, saying we're running out of time. Hour by hour, day by day, what should be happening?
So 2 things are going on. One is we have to stop the coming wave, and we have to get this down to a manageable amount into the summer. That's where we're blowing it day by day, because the number of cases are doubling in the order of every 3 days at this point. So it's like every few days we delay is another doubling. And the problem is, remember, everyone who's infected today is going to show up in the next 2 weeks. So it's that final doubling that's going to, it won't be like, a slow thing and then we'll slow it down. That final doubling is going to be what crushes us. And every time we allow another one to occur, it's one down the road that's going to swamp us. So, the getting a handle on really getting people to start isolating themselves is what needs to happen right now. That's the more immediate thing. But at the same time, we got to start planning for the fall. You got to remember in the flu epidemic of 1918, a ton of people got sick in the spring. And then over the summer, it started to look better. And everybody calmed down and thought, okay, we're through this. And then in the fall, like November of 1918 is like when that's when most of the people, the 50 million people died. We're worried that's where we're headed. We might get a handle on this now, as other countries are. We'll get into the summer. We'll look a little bit better. Things will be nicer. But we have to prepare for what's coming in the fall. That's potentially what could crush us, because we're not going to probably be able to keep this distancing going up for 18 months. We'll keep it up for a little while to get us over the hump and slow it down and maybe start to make the numbers look better. But by then we have to really redesign how we do stuff to have the ability to do targeted suppression so we can get through the fall. And so that's our long game. And by long, I mean months, not years. That's our months game. Our years game is we got to get a vaccine. So we need to tighten up now, plan for the fall, keep working on the vaccine.
If you get the virus and you recover, are you then immune to getting it again?
People, that's what we believe. 100% we're not positive because we're just not there yet. But based upon the evidence of other coronaviruses, we hope so, yes.
What about, a lot of people are talking about this drug, and a lot of really irresponsible talk about it. It's called like Procaline, something with a P. What do we need to know about that? What is it?
So it's an antimalarial drug that there's been anecdotal evidence that people who have been given it have recovered more quickly, which is great if it's true, but it's anecdotal. It's not like we've done randomized controlled trials here or really know what's going on. So to start throwing this around, we don't know. And they tried this I believe they tried it with like SARS and stuff, and it didn't work. So it's not as if we have like tons and tons of great evidence to say it doesn't. Like, sure. I mean, look, try anything, go make a trial and do it. We can do that. But to start going like, oh, everything's fine now, we got this handled is a little bit irresponsible.
What if someone in your home does get diagnosed contracting COVID-19? Should they then go live in a tent outside, live in the garage?
You're making fun, but that's.
I'm not really. I was thinking about setting up.
No,
a tent.
I know. It's like, oh well, a tent. I mean, like, it's not like we should kick them out. I'd argue to live in the tent. That's why I was sort of joking, but it's not unreasonable to truly try to distance yourself at that point, because you don't want to truly have it spread. But we're sort of owning that if it's in a house, it's probably in a house, and we need to quarantine everybody so that even if they do get sick, we contain it to the house. But look, let's be clear. In Asian countries, they move people to other facilities when they get infected so that it doesn't even spread in houses or locally.
Well, they force them to, I think. Like they pull you out of your house and throw you in the camp.
I don't think that's true.
You don't?
No, I think that they actually have facilities that they've bought, constructed. Sometimes they're putting them in hotels or somewhere else. I mean, it doesn't have to be in a camp. We could just come up with ways to isolate people who are infected and take care of them so that they don't infect other people.
There's a certain sense of comfort that we had knowing that it was really only very dangerous for people who had different respiratory conditions, or they were a little bit older, over 65, et cetera. And now what we're hearing out of Italy and I guess France and other countries is this is actually affecting
the United States
and the U.S.
And the United States, yeah.
Young people are getting this, and they're getting very sick and even dying.
Well, I'd push back in your framing of the question a little bit in the sense of like, it's still not comforting. People were getting sick and dying. It's like, it's if you only take comfort in the fact that it's not going to affect you and it will only affect other people. You worry about your
kids. It's like, I'm not worried about me as much as, or even my parents as much as I am about my kids, if I'm being honest.
That's, I guess that's fair, but it's still like, this is a problem for all of us. And it's like, even if your kids are not directly affected. If the hospitals are overwhelmed and then your children get sick and no ambulance can come to get them, they're still at risk. And that's where we're headed, where it's like, yeah, maybe you won't get sick or die of coronavirus, but if it takes an hour for the ambulance to get to you when you're having a heart attack, that's a problem. Or if the healthcare system can't tend to you really quickly when you're having a stroke, that's a problem. And that's also where we're headed, even if it's not going to affect you directly. Regardless, a number of the people who are truly sick are like in their 20s and 30s and 40s. This is not like it only affects people above the age of 70. That's where a lot of the mortality is, but a lot of the serious ill people, or still a decent number of them, are not old.
Is there any way for you to say to anybody, if they get the following symptoms, they should do this or that? Because it seems that different states and communities have different response abilities and times and tests.
You should call your doctor if you feel sick. I mean, honestly, just that's where you start.
What are the symptoms
call your doctor if you're not feeling well.
For?
If you have like any kind of fever, cough, whatever, like this is err on the side of caution. Call though. Don't just go to the doctor. Don't just go to the emergency room, but call. Like I shouldn't be diagnosing anybody. If you're concerned and you feel sick, you should call your doctor.
Okay. And when we go out
responding to a text very quickly while I talk to you. Go ahead.
How much time do you have left? 2 minutes? 3 minutes?
I could talk for a few minutes. I just
gotta go ahead. You can do 15 things at once. You're probably watching a television show as well.
In a few. Okay, let's do it. Keep going.
Was that Scarborough?
My brother.
So not as exciting as Scarborough.
No, he's more exciting.
What about going out? We should only go out to get groceries, medicine, and liquor.
No, we had liquor delivered last night. Why is anyone going out? I swear to God, yes, it's the greatest thing. $5 they brought it. It was amazing.
Oh,
we tipped the driver too, but it was $5 and they literally delivered it in an hour.
Wow.
It's
all
amazing.
Right.
The world we live in today.
Crazy.
No, look, as much as you can do delivery, you can do delivery. And if you have to go out, I'd say other than for really food and like in an emergency situation, or if you have a job that requires you, like you're a healthcare provider, we should be staying at home as much as possible.
And how long do you think we should plan for? You told me yesterday, and it was kind of a shockingly long amount of time that we're going to be in.
I'd say plan on this is going to be at least weeks. It potentially could be a month or two-ish more. I don't know. It's like depends. It depends how quickly we get a handle on this. It's like I would not think that month with an S is crazy.
All right. Last question for you. You've been very open about your own struggles in life, physiologically, mentally, and so on. And I just wonder it feels like there's no... Like I canceled on my therapist. Like what was he going to do? I mean, nobody has any experience with this situation is what I'm saying.
Oh my God, that's hilarious because I think I got a little frustrated yesterday and my kids were like, you need an appointment.
Well, I mean, that's understandable given your job.
No. I have an appointment on Wednesday with my therapist and it hasn't been canceled yet, but I'm going to assume we're not going to be doing it in person. But if he's doing it by Zoom, I'll do it on Zoom. I don't care.
But I'm saying like this situation that we're facing right now, is there anything that you would say to people about how they're supposed to deal with staying at home, sheltering in place, worrying about money and their job? I mean, this is a kind of anxiety that most of us have never experienced, it seems like.
I know, but this is like, I think you're asking two separate questions. Okay. If you're asking me like, how are we going to fix those problems? I do not know. But if you're asking me like, how do you cope on a day-to-day basis? Yeah, people deal with horror all the time. Different kinds of horror, and there are professionals experienced in helping people to get through horror, and I certainly would lean on them. As and granted, we'll probably overwhelm the system at some point, but dealing with issues, it's new that all of us are experiencing them at the same time.
Yeah.
But people deal with issues all the time.
Who do you think has a cooler bookcase behind them, me or you?
Oh, please. Look, I mean, it's like mine goes. It's like all these books, and then it's like all the way over there. It's like books and books and books. Plus, tons of comic books, and these are mine. Are yours built-ins?
The difference is I actually built my bookcase.
I did not build mine, of course, but it's like, but mine have all these fancy shelves. All that is comic books. It's like comic books.
I must have R2D2.
You can't see the comic books because they're most of them are away, but actually you can see the piles that I've not yet put away of my comic books. But it's
I'm just growing plants.
Good for you.
Yeah.
No, it's a little
survival
cluttered
garden.
To be honest with you, like I'd let this had become the dog's bedroom, and so I let him over. And for a little while, it was my distillery. So I've been trying to clean it up.
All right, buddy. Thanks for letting me check in with you. I appreciate you giving me some time today and whatever you can. That's Dr. Aaron Carroll. Follow him on Twitter at Aaron E. Carroll, and read the Incidental Economist. Read his piece in The Atlantic. Read him at the New York Times. Watch YouTube's Healthcare Triage, where he did a really good Q&A. What else? Any other plugs? Is that it?
No, but that Healthcare Triage, I wish it got more play, but we answered tons of people's questions. And if you go to the description, it's phenomenal because they have all the questions. You just click on the timestamp next to it and it goes right to the answer.
Go to YouTube, then search HC Triage, and you can find out a lot more. Thank you, sir.
Anytime.
Listen to Stand Up with Pete Dominick anywhere you get your podcasts, and subscribe to youtube.com/standupwithpete.